Sometimes I think people don't understand how lonely it is to be a kid. Like, you don't matter. So, I'm 8, and I have these toys, these dolls. My favorite is this ugly girl doll who I call Clementine. And I keep yelling at her, "You can't be ugly. Be pretty." It's weird. Like if I can transform her, I would magically change too.
Welcome back to Life Lessons in Film.
Hi.
Today we're going to be making sense of life through Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Mm-hmm.
It follows Chris Wilton. No, wait, no,
Joel.
That was the character from Match Point, wasn't it? Yes, it follows Joel. They got into a fight, and his partner decides to get this operation where they erase all traces of any memories that she had of Joel.
Patrick, baby boy. What you doing here, baby?
Just came to surprise you.
Let me know if you need something, sir. Good.
Then Joel
Finds out that she's done this,
Yes.
and decides that he's gonna
do the same.
do the same. So then we follow the process of this.
Yeah.
So we see it in counter chronological order.
Yeah.
The memories of his relationship with this
Clementine. We see it from his side where he's in his mind and all his memories are getting wiped. And then we'll see it from the outside when he's just, the operation's taking place with all the people doing the operation on him and hacking into his brain.
And then during the process, he kind of actually decides that he doesn't want to have his memory wiped out, his memory of Clementine. And he spends the whole time trying to stop the process from happening, but of course it does. And after this has happened, he's forgotten about Clementine. But then he decides one day to not go to work, calls in sick, goes to Montauk, and then ends up meeting Clementine there. This is after both of them having their memories erased, but of course they don't know each other. And so they bump into each other there, sparks fly, and they end up kind of pursuing the possibility of a relationship, only to discover that actually, wait, we knew each other before and we dated one of the people who'd worked at this place where people's memories are erased.
Yeah.
She takes all the patient files and mails them to everyone. That's how Joel and Clementine find out that they actually knew each other before, and then they
Get to listen to the tapes.
of why they wanted to
Why they
have
wanted to
their
break
memories
out,
wiped out.
break up
Yeah.
with each other. Yeah.
Even after that, they decide to kind of give it a shot.
See if they can fall in love again.
Yeah.
Yeah. The movie deals a lot with memory, with loss, with grieving, with relationships, the things that inevitably happen with relationships, the highs and the lows, the honeymoons and the little quirks and the annoyances of other people. Once you get to know someone intimately and you get to see all the things, the gross and the beautiful things that no one else knows about the person.
I feel like the movie is about questioning the bliss of forgetting things. For me, the movie says apathy is not the way. Whatever you go through, that is what constructs your impulses and your instinct, your emotions. So reflect on the things that happened. Even if you don't, they are still in your psyche. The subconscious is always holding on to the memories that the conscious level of your psyche has pushed aside. They're always there. And if you don't reflect on them and deal with them to better yourself, to improve yourself, to change yourself, you're always going to have the same outcomes. So Joel and Clementine wanted to not be together, but they didn't actually deal with their experiences. Instead of actually reflecting on their experiences to look at what they don't want or want about themselves, they decided to just push those memories aside. Because they didn't deal with those things, they still end up finding each other.
Exactly, yeah.
Even though they actually didn't want to.
It's like finding yourself in the same kinds of relationships when you don't fix what's the underlying issue.
After a breakup, don't be so quick to burn the t-shirts or throw away every single memory of this person. Be okay with keeping it and remembering what it was that happened. Allow yourself to relive the painful things that led you to the point of breaking up, because you don't want to find yourself in the same kind of situation. History repeating itself, reliving the same outcome because you didn't allow yourself to be changed by your reflecting on this past experience that led you here. Switch off the Netflix, put aside the KFC tub,
the tub of
Charlie.
chicken and the you know what we're talking about. You know who you are.
You know who you are, and just kind of get your journal out and write about all the stuff that made you upset.
And
all the people that are super annoying.
Weep.
All the people that hurt you. The things that made you feel like life sucks.
Yep.
And think about why they made you feel like life sucks.
Have a whimpering day. Whimpering is crying, right? But it's like a type of crying. Right?
Is it?
Weeping is like intense crying. And then whimpering is probably what comes at the end of the weep. I think you first weep, then you whimper.
I mean, whimpering, I kind of feel like it just kind of reminds me of my dog.
Oh.
He was always just whimpering.
Always whimpering?
He's so cute.
That's sad.
Yeah, but like, don't dogs do that? Isn't that what that...
I thought they like... You know, they, isn't that pouting? Isn't that pouting?
But isn't that whimpering?
You know, maybe it's more whimpering.
You look at a baby and it's so pure and so free and so clean, and adults are like this mess of sadness and phobias. And Howard just makes it all go away.
People get a chance at basically being like newborns again, where they're happy and blissful, because adults are just a mess of sadness and phobias, all these things you accumulate throughout life, all these things that stick with you, right? So there's this ideal of like actually being able to feel blissful again, and I guess blissful in that ignorance.
Everybody's trying to remove
the pain that they went through. Quick fix, instead of working through all the stuff that happened that hurt you in the relationship. It's like, I just get rid of it.
That's the flaw in this Lacuna Inc. operation. Yeah, you can remove the memory, but the feelings are always going to be there. You still find yourself sad, and you don't know why you're sad because you've decided to push the memories out of your conscious mind to your subconscious.
Yeah, and that's also about life is to be lived. It's not about avoiding or removing all the things that could be harmful or hurtful. It's to take all that stuff that inevitably happens and get through it, and then be stronger on the other side or wiser. You're different when you get through, say, a bad situation or a bad relationship or a bad experience. It'll take some time to process it and work through it, but then you're going to be a different, more grown person after. That's okay.
And you can't do that if you are the kind of person who's like, if something bad is happening, just forget it, it's done, you can't do anything about it. If you're the kind of person who will say things like, oh, you know, men are trash or women are bees, for example, why do you keep ending up with trash? You can't keep going on and on about the problem is other people. What is it that you're doing to keep attracting that same person? When Mary talks about how you're making everybody brand spanking new, it's like, are you really? And also, if that were true, what kind of person would you be if all you ever had in life were good experiences?
Exactly.
Would you really be happy?
It's easy to forget sometimes that, first of all, is happiness actually the highest good in life? It could be argued, because there's so much to be gained from suffering and loss and pain. Maybe it's worth going through a lot of suffering early on to then really be able to appreciate a really good happiness later on. If you've never really experienced that kind of loss, you wouldn't realize the good things worth fighting for. If it left you, you wouldn't realize that it was actually, no, you should have done more to make sure that you kept working on this thing that was good for you or healthy. I think you need sad moments to enjoy the good moments. And maybe the sadder the moments you've had, maybe the happier you can be also. The lower your lows, maybe the higher your highs can be. Who knows?
Yeah, you can actually recognize the things that you ought to be grateful for.
It's hard to be grateful. No one even know how to be grateful when you've never really had some like kind of loss or lack.
And really, there's a lot of value in loss or in pain. Joel, when he's getting his memory wiped out, he goes back to that memory of him and Clementine. He tells her, this is the happiest I've ever been.
I could die right now, Clem. I'm just happy. I've never felt that before. I'm just exactly where I want to be.
These things make him realize that, gosh, I never want to forget this time. I wasn't ever happy before then. There was a lot of pain in their relationship. That pain also came with something that he never experienced ever.
You're kind of closed-mouthed, aren't you?
Sorry. Just, my life isn't that interesting. I go to work, I come home, don't know what to say. Should read my journal. It's just blank.
I feel like Joel, for example, finds it hard to be very vulnerable. Clementine talks about how, I'm an open book, but you never really talk. And then he's like,
Constantly talking isn't necessarily communicating.
I don't do that.
That's actually a pretty reasonable
And
retort.
Exactly. Very reasonable.
Yeah.
However, with how he is, I question the validity of where it's coming from because he really does seem to be stunted in terms of being vulnerable versus Clementine, who's trying to connect.
Yeah.
And she says it.
People have to share things, Joel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what intimacy is.
That's intimacy.
Exactly.
Is
He wants
knowing
intimacy.
these things about you.
Yeah. And I believe that that's probably part of the reason that they broke up because he was so closed off and was so afraid to open up, you know? If he then taps into that relationship, the good and the bad of it, he can reflect on himself. Why was it that I struggled? What was going on in that relationship? What was the tug of war? Because the tug of war included him not talking and her wanting to be open. That's the stuff that he could reflect on to try and help him invite the kinds of relationship going forward that will give him the same kind of happiness. And also, if you broke up with someone and you reflected on, you know what, that was the happiest I've ever been. That's someone you know that you want to fight for, I feel. If you had that memory that and you're not suppressing what happened in the past, then you can get back to, okay, I want to work on what it was that led us to us eventually breaking up.
Yeah, it's important to hold on to those memories. It builds a better map for you to know how to navigate things in the future.
I wish I knew you when I was a kid.
Do you like my pink hat? Here, look, feel better. You can really kill me this time. It's my turn.
Kid?
Go. One,
You're
two,
really
three.
gonna die, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
You're dead.
There's that sense of, oh, you know, we could have had so much more time of being happy if we'd met earlier. We could have avoided a lot of things that we had to go through.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing, is you have to go
You have
through
to-
those things so that
in order to actually
to meet for it
first
to-
of all, and when you eventually do meet, for it to actually
makes sense.
make
for it.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clementine and Joel are fighting a lot.
Mhm.
They end up breaking up because of all of these fights. But if you're looking for that consistent state of bliss, you can have a relationship and be happy in that relationship, even if you're fighting. And you could have moments when you're fighting, like literally that year was brutal. We were fighting so much. But all that fighting is kind of like a constant shifting of each party to accommodate each other and to accommodate themselves in the relationship, because sometimes you make sacrifices that you really shouldn't be making in a relationship. And you can see that in little ways with Clementine and Joel, where there's these dissatisfactions with the other party. Joel doesn't like Clementine's grammar and gets embarrassed by her in public sometimes by how she speaks.
Vocabulary leaves something to be desired. Sometimes I was embarrassed in public. Hi. You would pronounce library. Hi. Library. Or library.
Those are things that are part of a relationship. They're things that you're not going to like about your partner. But if you see that as unhappiness, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Happiness does not come in black and white terms. Happiness does not mean that you are going to be living out a literal fairy tale as you see in the movies or books.
Yeah.
Happiness includes being sad and being blessed enough to be in a relationship with someone who wants to sit down and make you feel better, who wants to sit down and look at themselves and what they did to cause you pain.
There's always that constant tweaking of a relationship, because you both need to want to keep changing, but that means you're going to have to be get used to always accommodating, always adapting a little bit, and then there's always going to be a bit of fixing when there's a movement of the plates. You know, the plates, they're always shifting underneath the mantle. Tectonic. So, you know, that's why adjusting is needed.
Yeah.
Too rigid, you'll snap. I think living a good sturdy life is experiencing the whole range of emotions all the time.
A lot of people get so uncomfortable with negative emotions. Kind of like, what was that movie that we watched with Joy?
Oh yeah, Inside Out.
Yeah, Inside Out. Sadness is the one that actually saves the day because finally Joy allows the kid to go through all of the sad stuff and process it.
And then realize, no wait, I actually will miss my family.
Yeah.
I need to go back. What am I doing? But if you stay numb, if you keep shutting down, you'll be lost.
I'm lost to spend that much time with someone only to find out that she's a stranger.
I definitely agree that you could really spend time with people and not know them. I know that I have spent time with people, grew up with people, and they do not know me whatsoever. You're not comfortable with the person enough to open up, and so you don't. Or things like the person doesn't know themselves. So how the heck are you gonna, how are they gonna show themselves to you?
I think it's important to have that intimacy, because you can spend a lot of time with people in your life, but you never really get that close, because even when you think you're spending a lot of time with someone, if they're not opening up, or maybe you had this idea of the person and they were not really showing you who they truly were this whole time, whether it's you in denial about how they actually are, or they were denying how they actually were. People can also, when you break up, maybe there's things about the person, wow, I didn't realize you could be so I don't know, vindictive or insecure or whatever. Maybe that's partly what he means. Or it's a side that, again, he didn't want to admit was there. He could also still feel like he had a different idea of who she was. That happens too. Until you really see someone in a certain situation and you're like, I didn't know you were capable of that. Wow, this is a different side of you that I'd never seen before. This changes things. But yeah, that was some stuff that we had to say about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. What did you guys think? Have you seen it? Let us know in the comments down below. Share your thoughts on our thoughts. And until next time, thanks for watching. And that's a wrap.
Bye.
November 19th, 2003. Dinner at Kang's again. Are we like those bored couples you feel sorry for in restaurants? Are we the dining dead?